there's a tropical storm happening outside, so why not lose my voice and also review You Should Have Left. There's so many jokes about the movie You Should Have Left. You know, people are saying you should have left the theater even though your theater is at home. Anyway, this whole review is spoilers because, yeah. So, when the trailer first dropped for this movie, a lot of people were like, oh my god, there's this new horror film with Kevin Bacon. It looks really scary. And I was like, okay, you know, Kevin Bacon in a horror film. We haven't seen that in a while. I haven't really seen Kevin Bacon. Yep, allergies. As like, you know, a lead in a while, unless there's been something and I'm like, I missed out. So I'm like, okay. And then I was like, oh, Amanda Seyfried's in it. Okay, fine, whatever. She's a person. Strong winds. Sounds like someone's trying to come in. But yeah, so in the movie, it's Kevin Bacon, as, you know, Kevin Bacon, and his wife is Amanda Seyfried. So already we're like, God, there's like this age gap thing, and already, you know, you have like this like, kind of moment, you know. Although the movie does acknowledge it, like there's a point to having her as the, you know, the wife and all that stuff. You know, it's not like other roles where usually it's just like, yeah, you have someone the age of Kevin Bacon, and then you got, you know, fucking Millie Bobby Brown or something like that. Drake! Stop texting teens. Anyway, so, you know, she's a very famous, you know, like, movie star person in the... There's a lot of knockdown trees and traffic lights not working, so yeah. Anyway, so Amanda Seyfried's character, she's a movie star, you know, she's with the young whatever, and you know, he's like, he's not like the old has-been, but he's like, he's famous for, excuse me, the wrong, fuck. Oh yeah, for the wrong reasons. So one day he visits her on set, and they're like, the guy was like, "It's a closed set, da da da," and you hear like in the background, you're like, oh Jesus, oh God, you know, and it's like she's filming a sex scene, and you know Kevin Bacon's like, fucking hell, like my wife's filming a sex scene, and I'm here, and then like the guy who won't let him on set is just wearing a Furious 7 hat, you know, Anyway, so, you know, she's always busy because she's movie whatever person. He's a person. They have a child, a little girl. Which I was about to say, the little girl has a very annoying voice, but it's like that kid voice where it's like, I don't know. Like, it's a fine... It's fine, it's a child, but then in horror films, because they're supposed to be scared and, you know, screaming, so it becomes like, you know, the child voice where it's like, I don't know. And you're like, I can't. And then you're just like, just. Yeah, anyway. So, they decide, okay, let's rent this house for, I don't know, like a week, a month, who fucking knows. And it's, you know, one of those like, we're rich, but we need to get away into a richer house, you know, oh, there's a bit of time from one movie to the next, or whatever, who cares, it's really not the point. So they get to the home, and they're like, Amanda Seyfried's reaction is, oh man, it looks a lot bigger on the inside than it does on the outside, and I was just like, having like a Doctor Who moment where I was like, oh god, I have a feeling what's gonna happen. So, you know, their marriage is obviously on the rocks, because, you know, there's the obvious age gap stuff. It's just also, like, you later find out that, like, he's famous, again, like, not for a good reason, probably more infamous, but anyway, because his wife drowned in the tub, and he's accused of, you know, doing it, but, you know, not real. Every time, there's always a light that falls. But anyway, there's not enough evidence to suggest that he actually killed her. But, you know, a lot of people are looking at him in a very, like, you know, OJ kind of way, like, you did it. We know, motherfucker, you did it. But he's like, no, I never did it. And then they were like, They're like, when are we gonna tell our child who's like 3, 4? I don't know, you know, where they're like, they can talk and walk around and all that stuff, but like cognitive faculties aren't like 1,000% there yet, you know, but anyway, so they're at this house. It's very like, you know, modern blah 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 kind of thing. It's just it's one of those like it's a nice house. Like it's one of those like oh it's good minimalistic like for me as like a starting point. Like cool, we'll have this furniture and then let's like do something else. My God, because it's like a bunch of like beige and gray, and I'm like okay. It's the IKEA catalog if you just decide not to you know zhuzh it up besides just you know buying as is. So while in the home, they start have like each of them are mentioning that they start having nightmares, but the movie's from the perspective of Kevin Bacon, so you really see his nightmares more. There's also a bit of like loss of time because you know their first night there, Kevin Bacon is going to like turn off the lights in the house, which I find funny that like all the lights are on. Like I guess when they arrived, all the lights were on, or when they walked around, they turned on lights, but when they left, when they left the rooms, they didn't turn off because whatever. It's like when you're at a hotel, you leave all the lights on, you leave the TV on, you leave the water running, and then the AC going, and then you just step out, you know. Anyway, so he goes to turn off the lights, and he's like, you know, like figuring out the switches. There's just that one lamp that's not gonna turn off, and I'm just like, whatever, dude. And part of me is like, I don't know, you got so many like creepy hallways and stuff. Maybe keep like one light on, you know, kind of thing. You know, I don't know, maybe that's just me. You see it starts at like 10:30 at night, and then, you know, he's walking around the house, which is like, is a decent-sized house, but, you know, it's bigger on the inside because it's the TARDIS. And then he comes back, you know, he sees his wife asleep, and, you know, it probably, what, like 5-10 minutes gone by? He's like, oh, really? Wow, she's fast asleep. And then, like, he goes to, like, say something, and she's like, oh, what? I had a horrible nightmare. And he's like, okay, whatever, go back to sleep. And then you see the clock, it says like 3 a.m. It's like, what? So pretty much that's the house. It's like, time, you know, is its own thing there. You know, everyone's getting weird nightmares. There's a one point where, like, you know, he goes into town to, like, get some groceries or something. And the guy at the grocery store, like, you know, hands him, like, you know, like a triangle thing, and it's like, here you go, check the corners of the house, and it's like, huh? Okay, you know, check the corners, something's not right with that house, and it's always, like, there's always the townie, you know, who knows, there's always the voice of, like, you know, you're all doomed, that kind of shit, and I'm just like, this movie is so stupid. So like, I don't. I want to get to it, but at the same time, I'm like, no. So anyway, so yeah, more weird stuff starts happening. Their marriage is starting to get more and more like, you know, this. And there's one part where like Amanda Seyfried's in the tub, and Kevin Bacon's being, like, super distrustworthy, and he's, like, checking her phone, her tablet, her laptop, like, going through messages and emails and stuff, and he's, like, it's like he knows that she's cheating, or whatever, la 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 la. So anyway. So, like, at one point, you know, right, sorry. So he's writing stuff in his notebook. Oh, and he's listening to, like, you know, those motivational, like, I was about to say mixtapes, audio tapes, you know, like, you know, to breathe is a good thing. You must breathe in, and then you breathe out. All of us experience distress at some point in our lives. Like, that kind of stuff, you know. So he's listening to that, and he's writing his journal, because it's like, make a list with one-word responses about how you currently feel. You know, and he's writing, and also that handwriting. I was like, God, I thought I had shitty handwriting. But, like, looking at the notebook that I write my reviews in, I'm like, ugh. But it's, like, awful. And then, you know, all that stuff. He comes back from the fucking general store or whatever, and there's the thing. You probably saw in the trailer, it's like, you should have left. Cue the wind. And already I was just like, that's him. He wrote it. He forgot he wrote it. You know, because the handwriting's the same thing. Also, when the movie began, there's like this old janitor, old scruffy, you know, janitor looking guy. Shit's going crazy right now. And I'm like, that's Kevin Bacon in a disguise. Because Kevin Bacon, like, you can do all the makeup you want, but he's not like Bill Hader or something. He can't, like, do something else with his voice. So he's like, I'm Kevin Bacon. Then he's like, I'm something different. This is a different voice. And I was like, that's Kevin Bacon. So already I was like, why is he playing two characters? I'm like, I was already like, already in, like, when the movie started, I was like, I think it's one of those, it's in Kevin Bacon's head and everyone else is fine, but it's Kevin Bacon kind of movies. So then when it got to the part of The Notebook where it was like, you should have left, I was like, oh, it's in his head. It made me think of that movie, I forgot the name of it, but it's the one that had like De Niro and Dakota Fanning, and Dakota Fanning is just like, you know, Charlie told me, blah, 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 and Dad, De Niro was like, who's Charlie, blah, 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 blah. Turns out the whole time it was De Niro because, you know, it was in his head, he thought, blah, 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 you know, like, he whatever. I was like, it's gonna be like that. It's like the payoff in the movie's gonna end. Payoff being like, this was Kevin Bacon losing his mind the whole time. You know, it's gonna be one of those things where like, were they even in the house? Because at one point, like, you know, during his nightmares, he's in the house and he's like going into, like, you know, one room. Like normally it would be like the kitchen goes into the foyer or whatever, but suddenly it's like you're running into, then you're in this weird hallway, and then blah blah blah, and then you run out, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is the laundry room. Yes, phone. You know, and it's like, where are we? I don't know. You know, and that's my hair, and it's like, God, what other movie did that? Like, a lot of movies have done that. Like, all I can think of is Boogeyman. They did that where it's like, I crawled under the bed, and I came out the closet, and then I reached the tub, and, you know, like, all those other movies that have done that where it's just like, I'm here, but then it's like if I walked into my closet, and then somehow, oh my God, is this, like, Jesus. But anyway, then like, I somehow walk into my closet and I end up in my garage or something like that. It's like one of those kind of moments. Like, huh? How did this happen? It's a lot of like that. Like, the movie wants you to be like, what's gonna happen next? Oh no. But I'm just more like, where is this going? You know? Like, where is this getting to? Alright. You know, like, what is the pay? Like, pretty much the movie is like 94 minutes. It's not very long, but you're watching it being like, what's the payoff? Where is this building up to? You know, and it's not even like good suspense. It's just like you know, because there's one where it's like, you initially see like a Polaroid, and you know that's Kevin Bacon like entering a door, like a weird hallway kind of stuff, and he just like looks at it, he goes, okay, whatever. And I'm like, how can you not tell that's you in the photo? Like, I don't know. Then in one of the dream sequences, it's like his daughter has drowned, and then like there's a bunch of photos and stuff, a bunch of Polaroids, and it's like, and it's like, then you made me think of like Invisible Man thing, like, okay, maybe it might be Kevin Bacon, but it could be like it could be one of those like, God, there was this other movie I just watched the other day where it was like, there's a killer, but then it turns out like, there's a twin. Like, I'm thinking that. I'm like, okay, maybe there's like a twin, and it's twin Kevin Bacon who's haunting him, you know, and stuff like that. And it's just, oh my God. Oh, and when there's parts in the movie where, you know, he's doing the whole like walking into one spot and ending somewhere, blah, blah, blah. Then he's like time traveling, in a sense, you know? Like, he like walks into his like office study room where he sees himself like writing in the notebook, and then he's just like, then he actually goes in and write down, you should have left, you know, because it's funny, because there's one part where they had an opportunity to leave the home, but then they decide not to, you know, instead of like leaving. It was Amanda Seyfried, it's like, well, I'll just like go into town for a day and just like give you a day to like clear your mind and leave our child with you, kind of thing. And it's like, okay. It's like there's ghosts in my house. This is what it sounds like. There's just shit flying everywhere. Anyway, so like oh yeah, they had told like their child like what happened to the previous wife. Like, Amanda Seyfried told the kid, and then of course Kevin Bacon's like, can't believe you told, the kid's not old enough, we said we were gonna wait till she was 5 or 6 or something. Anyway, the whole payoff of this movie was just so stupid. So like, the whole time, yes, it was in his head, you know, but it was also like that house caused it to manifest, you know, because before, like the old townie guy said, before there was that house, there was another house. Before that house, or before that building or whatever, it was a tower, and the tower housed the devil. And it's like, oh my fucking god, why is that the house of devil? And so, you know. So it's like, no matter what happens to that home, it always ends up, you know, being there and whatever, you know. Kevin Bacon's like, oh, you sent me the link. And she's like, no, you sent me the link. Like, okay, whatever. So yeah, it turns out he did drown his wife. Were you surprised by that? I wasn't. I knew he drowned his wife. I knew it'd be from the beginning. Oh, and then he's like in this weird basement thingy of the home or whatever, and he runs into himself, you know, that old Scruffy. He runs into old Scruffy. And old Scruffy's like, remove the thing. I'm you. What? Oh my god, I could not have predicted that. Wow, this movie is so scary and so unpredictable. Oh my god. Like, really? Like, no. And so, you know, in the end, he tells Amanda Seyfried, yeah, I killed my wife, you and the kid should leave, and then I'm just gonna be in this home to deal with it. Like, it's not, they don't even clarify, like, what, like, why he has to stay in the house. Like, maybe because the fact that, oh, my hair is, like, falling out. Maybe the fact his wife, so he's like in that home to suffer. Like, it doesn't really say. He's just like, I just have to stay here. Okay. There's one part where, like, before, you know, at night, because it was supposed to be just a day, so the night before Amanda Seyfried's gonna come back, Kevin Bacon's like, fuck it, we're gonna walk into town, there's something wrong with this house. He carries his kid, and they leave, and they're walking, and you fucking know what's gonna happen. We're walking in a straight line that way, and then you realize you somehow, like, made a circle, even though you didn't, because it's one of those movies where it's like, oh my god, I see light, but it's the house again. Even the kid was like, how? We were going down. We were, like, the kid was even like, we were going downhill. How? What the even the kid was like, this doesn't make sense, you know? And Kevin Bacon's like, oh, I guess we have to go back in now. And the little girl's like, I'm not fucking going back. Like, I'm not fucking going, and then Kevin Bacon's like, oh, we have to. I'm like, I don't know, man. I'd rather freeze to death outside than, you know, to go to that home. And it's like, God, wasn't there, like, movie, was it, like, in the 70s or 80s? It was, like, The House That Eats or something. There was a lot of, like, those movies. Like, The Bed That Ate. Like, it feels like that kind of, like, it feels like the title of the movie should have been called that. Because it was just like, there it is, that house. It was just weird, like, that, like, again, when I said, like, oh, you weren't sure if, like, the house was real or was in his head, because at one point, like, some of it felt like, you know, mental illness to me, because it was like, he was, like, running up the stairs, and he wasn't able to get to, like, the top of the stairs because he did the fucking Hitchcock, you know, like, fucking zoom angle thing. And he's, like, trying to get up the stairs, and finally he jumps, he gets to the top of the stairs, and part of me is like, okay, that seems like a metaphor or something for mental illness. Like, you're trying to reach something, you're working as hard as you can, but you can't, and you're struggling, and you're just, like, at the bottom all the time. And so I was like, okay, maybe the house is in his mind, you know, like, and I'm just making this seem a lot more interesting than it's not. It's just like he's just struggling just to go up a flight of stairs. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's that he was just struggling to go up a flight of stairs. There was no. It's stupid. It's just okay. Like the whole thing, like the whole I didn't even explain the whole you should have left thing. Wasn't the house they should have left. The whole you should have left thing is that he should have left his marriage, his wife from his previous marriage, because things were starting to get rocky and they weren't going anywhere, and he should have left. You know? Like, he should have left, but instead he, like, stayed with her. Also, I don't think he technically killed her. He just didn't help her. You know? Because she took her pills, she had her wine, and she just fell asleep and then drowned. And then he didn't help her. So he didn't really kill her, he just didn't help her. But at the same time, he killed her. And so it's like, though you should have left is it's like, what's the moral of the story? Like, leave your shitty relationship before it's too late. I mean, I don't know how too late it is because the woman died. You know, like, I guess that's the only out, you know? Like, leave a thing before something major like that happens? I don't know. But then you have to end up going into this devil house to be taught a lesson. You know, you marry a young person, and I don't know. It's just, why was this sold as a good movie? Why was this sold as a good movie? This is really bad. Like, this is bad. Cue the strong winds. But yeah, this is really bad. It's just, no, who thought this? Who thought this was actually scary? Like, who thought this was suspenseful? Like I said, like, the first, like, 5 minutes in when Scruffy showed up, I was like, that's Kevin Bacon. You know? And then, also, like, yeah, I know, it's not good, but, like, I tend to look on IMDb whenever I watch movies to, like, look at the trivia stuff, you know, I just, you know, be like, oh, you know, like, stuff like, oh, it could be like, that house was also used in this movie. I'd be like, ooh, that's interesting, like, I'm that person. But also, like, IMDb lists, like, after I went, that's Kevin Bacon. And then when I looked on IMDb, it was like, Kevin Bacon plays the dude and then the bad person, whatever. The person that they rent the house from. And I'm just like, oh, you know? Again, I thought it was a twins thing. Turns out, it was the house. Like, the house calls to people who need it. Is the house like Jigsaw? Like, they know you do something bad, so it calls to you, so you rent this house. And then it teaches you a lesson. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. God, was I even in focus this whole time? I don't even think so. God. I don't even think I was in focus this whole time. Whatever, who cares? I just turned on my camera. That was, ow, I hurt my hand. That was You Should Have Left, and I should have not watched this. Let's add to the jokes for this movie. Whatever. God, 20-something minutes. Alright, hello.